Time for the 49ers Rush Podcast. And here's your host, John Chapman.
What is going on, faithful? It is Thursday. It's the Coach Approach. I'm here with the main man, Ant. How we doing today, man?
We're doing good. This is so fun. I always enjoy this episode now. Get deep dive into the coaching point of view, and I think it's something a little bit different from the traditional, and so if you see other content creators or other people that do podcasts, I don't really like calling myself a content creator, but podcasters that talk about, football, it's just a little bit of a different approach from the norm, and I really enjoy it. And plus, when you have guys who have kind of coached, you can kind of bounce things off each other and kind of have a fun conversation. So it's a lot of fun.
I love it. Let's go. I see you, Ricardo. I see you, Fonzie. We got everybody in the chat. I absolutely love it. And the premise of this show every Thursday is, look, we've gone through the film by now. We've dissected it. We're always running. There's always more to go back to. I was telling it back-to-back days has been so hot in the Bay. I can't sleep at night. It's too hot. So I got up at 3 o'clock this morning and went back through our punt coverage units for the past 3 games because I'm an insane person. I'm not normal. I'm not sleeping, so my brain activity's a little low. And I'm like, you know what? Let's go watch punt coverage. Why are we so terrible? And so I want to talk about that. So the first part's going to be things we noticed from the past tape that perhaps we missed live or hasn't been talked about or addressed very much. And then the second part of the show, what are the adjustments we want to see moving forward? That's the whole idea. Now, obviously, it's the chat's job to get us off topic, get us chasing rabbit holes, have some fun, say some things we regret, and grow together. That's what it's about. So Hugo, Dan, all you guys, Peanut, Jeff, appreciate you guys here, Big Papa. You guys are the best. Let's dive in to business. And we're going to lead off with our number one hitter here. What was something offense, defense, special teams that jumped out to you? Yeah, the 49ers won. Yeah, they covered the biggest spread of the week. But was there something maybe that you didn't like, or was there something that you were like, oh, this is incredible, and this is why they were able to win by so much?
I think I really enjoyed the approach that Coach Nick Sorensen took to this game, where it was, hey, not only are we going to take away the run, but we're going to put a full emphasis on taking away the run. They didn't let the game come to them. They put the game on New England. They came in with those 5 defensive linemen, and having Jordan Elliott over the center, it was really fun to see. He was getting a major push up front. It also kept Fred Warner and Devondre Campbell cleaner than we've seen them in other games. They were able to free flow and get downhill and make plays. I love that approach, but it wasn't just the 5-man front. It was a consistent blitz effort, whether it was an obvious pass downs, bringing extra pressure, or run blitzes as well. But it seemed like it was more together, more tied together than it's ever been before in the 4 games so far. And I thought they did a really good job. So I was very excited to see his approach. And then he coupled that with some really good coverage behind. There was still the man coverage, the occasional cover one, but he really tied it in where he showed man looks and then ran zone, which I thought was a nice compliment to what he was doing with the blitzing, and it really worked out. And I thought they did a great job against the New England Patriots in a very good run game. At least through the first 3 weeks, the Patriots had showed they were pretty good.
It's funny because, and I don't know if you feel this way, on the back end, I've always felt like if you show man, you bluff man and go zone, you're fine. You bluff zone and go man, you're in a world of hurt. Like, I just don't know why, but it just doesn't ever seem to work. It doesn't matter what level it's at. But yeah, I'm with you. The 5-man D-line pressure was awesome, and I feel bad. Jake Andrews, who's been stalwart in the NFL, he got banged up pretty bad. Malik Collins and Jordan Elliott took him to the woodshed. And now part of me says I don't think he's ever going to play again. They put him on IR. He might come back, but if the Patriots continue down the trajectory they're on, I don't know. Part of me says this might be the end. But yeah, he had a terrible game, and the young guys were just – Malik Collins and Jordan Elliott are different. The amount of force and leverage and bull rush is different. Now, whenever we're not doing the 5-man D line and they could do duo and combo blocks and it's, 2-on-1 early start, your leverage ain't going to really matter that much. But you get them in one-on-one matchups and those guys flourish. They absolutely just change the way the game is played. I don't know, man. I liked it. And I liked it too because they'd come out in a 5-man for first, second down, switch to their nickel package. Like, all right, now we're doing some fun stuff. Now with that, somebody's got to come off. They were pulling safeties off. They were pulling linebackers off. They were pulling all kinds of stuff out. So it was quite interesting. But do you think that this 5-man defensive line pressure is something that we're going to continue to see moving forward? Because we saw it, in week 3 and 4. We didn't see it week 2. We didn't see it. I think we saw it one series week 1. But is this something that we're going to start to see every game now?
I think it comes down to what personnel grouping you're going to see. The Jets couldn't run very much 12 personnel. They don't have the 2 tight ends to be able to do it. And I think since then we've seen a heightened amount of 12 personnel, putting the 49ers in base sets. They've been trying to protect Demetrius Flanagan fouls. One way you do it is you just don't even have them on the field. Put an extra defensive lineman out there and protect Fred and Devondre Campbell so they can flow free. Last week, Dan Quinn did a similar thing to the Cardinals. He put 5 men on the field at 5-man defensive line, and he stuffed the run a little bit when it got to the late part of the first quarter and second. And that really slowed down the Arizona Cardinals offense. So I expect to see it again. I also expect opposing offenses to start finding answers to be able to handle that 49ers 5-man defensive front by getting tight ends involved in the passing game. And so I think that's going to be one of the unique things that they're going to have to figure out how to handle, because Devondre Campbell, even though I really like him, he's not great right now in coverage. And so finding a matchup where they can get one of their tight ends on Devondre Campbell could be a problem. But as far as if you're destined to stop the run and that's what your whole intent is, then these 5-man fronts need to continue because it's been successful for them so far.
Yeah, I think that's the issue. And I think, step back from the Niners, let's look at the NFL in general. Every single team that plays the 49ers does 5-man D-line front, 6-man D. We saw one series with 7. It was almost like the amoeba defense. I don't know if you've ever put one of those in fact where you're like, look, dude, you get between a player. We have every single guy, 8 guys. We would play Mansfield High School used to do this where they were in 13 personnel or 23 personnel almost every single time. Like they had no wide receivers. And so what we would do is we would have a series where we would just amoeba that thing where everybody's in a gap, stay in your gap. And we'd have we had a stud linebacker that would just clean everything up. And it was counter tray left, counter tray right, counter tray left. And that's all they would do. And so I feel like with these dominating run games in the NFL, you got to control your gaps. And so you're starting to see, man, maybe we could get teams to check out of their run calls with these can. You see everybody do it. And Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan talked about that. Like, man, you got a 6-man, not a 6-man box front set linebackers. You're talking 6 men on the line of scrimmage. Sometimes it's hard to run in that. But Jordan Mason and the 49ers have kind of shown, like, look, we're still going to run. We might flip the sides, the strength, motion the other way. But the run game's not going anywhere. And with these two teams, they are 2 of the most dominating run defenses in the NFL. Run offenses in the NFL with the 49ers and Cardinals. I mean, this is going to be a slugfest. And the thing is, the Cardinals have struggled mightily stopping the run. The 49ers have been up and down. There's no doubt about it. So, I don't know. I mean, Ant, let me ask you this. The Cardinals do a 3-4 multiple front look, but a lot of times there's 5 men up front. Do you think we're going to see 6-man fronts this week versus the Cardinals? I do too.
Absolutely. I mean, that's right. That's what works against the outside zone. You got to get guys up there. These 6-1 kind of hybrid looks with the 2 deep safeties, but the safeties aren't really that deep. Everyone against the 49ers right now is trying to hover around 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. They just don't want the 49ers to be able to run the football consistently with Jordan Mason. And then they don't want him to have those quick crossers, the plays over the middle with the slants. They're trying to take everything away and make Brock beat him outside the numbers and vertically. The problem is he's proving he can do it. But you've got to make the 49ers at least one-dimensional and put the onus on the passing game right now. And that's what they're trying to do. If you don't stop the run, they know Kyle Shanahan's going to run it 35, 40 times and absolutely end you. So that's what they're trying to do. I expect to see 6, 7-man fronts as they move forward. And, can you stop Jordan Mason in the run game? The thing about 6-man fronts, they're great as far as going ahead and keeping guys in gaps. The problem is there's no second level. If
None.
you get past that initial defense, you've got big play potential for Jordan Mason in the run game. So that's the thing. It's at your own peril. How good can the 49ers block it up? And the edge defenders aren't exactly the best for the Cardinals. This could be advantage 49ers.
Yeah, you talk L.J. Collier, Bilal Nichols. You're talking two of the worst defensive ends. And now they do a multiple, so they're called defensive ends, but it's that 3-4 hybrid. Like, they're not playing on the end of the defense, even though that's the terminology that's used. But, like, you're putting Bilal Nichols in between Colton McKivitz and Dominique Pooney. Those are two of the best run blockers maybe in the NFL. Like, they're both isn't that weird to say? Like, I know Colton McKivitz is like whatever taboo and people get upset at him. Not in the run game. That dude has been lights out in the run game, bar none. Dominique Pooney has been as consistent as any lineman in the NFL. And I think it was Lombardi that tweeted out today the EPAs running to the left, to the right. The 49ers have a better EPA per run to the right side. They've actually run to the right side more than the left this year as well. And so in the past, you do, if it was an important down, follow Trent Williams. That's where the ball is going to go. Now, not so much, at least in the run game. That has changed. And so with their lack of personnel, they don't have the dogs. And they drafted their first round pick, the Arizona Cardinals. They spent that on big man, Darius Robinson. You remember, like, Mizzou, beast. I think you and I both were pretty high on him. He had the chance to come off IR this week, and Jonathan Gannon, the head coach, said they're not going to be activating, kind of like Ricky Pearsall. So we're without our first round pick. They had 2 first-round picks, but they're without their second first-round pick. That guy's going to be a huge difference maker for them long-term, but he ain't coming this week. So, yeah, you load up those fronts. That's cool. Now, you can try to make this one-dimensional, but the 49ers have experienced this. This is one of my favorite clips ever. This is George Kittle talking about when the 49ers just throw the ball and go one-dimensional.
And us being a one-dimensional football team isn't very good.
They know that. George Kittle complained because he caught a touchdown pass last week. He was mad. He didn't like the call because it should have been a running play. Like, that's the type of environment, and you can't shut a Kittle up. Like, no matter how much, whatever, he's a Kyle guy, he's a Shanahan guy. He ain't going to shut up. Kittle going to talk all the time. He wants to run the ball more. So, Ant, let me ask you this. If you had a magic number for the 49ers rush attempts, I do this every week on my scouting report show. I haven't done it for this week. I'm seeking strong advice here. What is your magic number that if the 49ers have this many rush attempts, they win this game?
I think it's going to be between 30 and 35. And if you get to 35, I think you do win this game outright. That's the target number. I think every single week you kind of want to be in that range anyways. We know 40 is an absolute win no matter what. But I think getting somewhere between 30 and 35, you're going to win the time of possession. You're going to wear down that Cardinals defense, and you're going to rush for enough yards that it doesn't really matter. You're going to put the ball in the end zone. So that's where I would think the 49ers are going to plan to target this game. Hey, let's make it a game that whoever wins the ground wins. I think 49ers have a little bit more confidence in their run defense than the Cardinals have in their run defense, which has been very bad this year. They give up 146 yards per game on the ground. 49ers average 141 on the ground. It should be 140 plus yards for Jordan Mason in this matchup because, let's be honest, he's really the only one that's going to carry the ball. We'll probably see a couple of carries from other guys like Deebo Samuel, but for the most part, it's Jordan Mason. He's the bell cow right now.
Yeah, it's funny because you get what's the saying? What happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object, right? It's the antithesis to that, right? What happens when somebody that always gets out of the way meets a train? Like, it doesn't rhyme, doesn't sound as cool, but like that's like the feeling. It's like, dude, this is our strength versus their weakness. How's that going to look? Now, Big Papa has this question. He says, wouldn't the quick out beat the 6-man front? The problem with that is you still got your corners, which are going to be playing kind of the outside third flats. The way that you beat it is the deep ball. And so if you're going to sacrifice the deep safety, it's the deep ball. And that's what we've seen from Brock Purdy, right? Right here, Sonia. That's fine. Purdy and Sam Darnold are tied for most 20-plus yard plays. That's insanity. that those two names are mentioned. But Brock Purdy's been the best deep ball thrower in the NFL, and I don't think you stop that. Like, this was the problem. You go back to the NFC Championship game that we lost to the Rams, #sadness. The reason why we lost that is because they adjusted their defense. It was one of the first times we saw that six-man McVay front, but Jimmy couldn't throw the ball deep. He couldn't do it. And so you made us one-dimensional, and we couldn't take the top off the defense. Now, insert Brock Purdy, it's a little bit different because that dude's dicing people up deep. So if you got to pick, who you want to die by 1,000 cuts, or do you want us to be? I think it was one of the drives we started like on like the 12-yard line, and it took us 2 plays to get into the red zone. Like, I mean, it was just incredible last week. So you want the huge chunks, or do you want the 1,000 cuts? What is it that you want to see?
Yeah, and you can win either way. That's what's nice about Kyle Shanahan's offense is, hey, if you want us to go ahead and use the time of possession and convert third and medium, third and short, we can do that. If you want us to have the opportunity to take shots down the field, we can do that too. That was what made the Atlanta Falcons offense so dynamic. They had the good run game, but they also had Julio Jones and those guys that could win down the field. And they had a quarterback that could run the necessary offense. Right now, that's what he's got. He's got the quarterback that can handle all elements of his offense. You need to win outside the numbers, Brock can do that. He's comfortable. You need him to win vertically down the field, he can do that. So now you've got defenses that are having to cover all the grass, and we know that's a key for offenses, and that just makes it easy. Kyle Shanahan would love to just sit back, hand the ball off to Jordan Mason, and completely take over the football game. But if you want to try to take it away, I got the playmakers and the quarterback that can make you pay, and that's what he's doing right now. I think there are a couple of things right now as far as execution-wise away from being a 30-plus point team every single week, and that's the good news. They're only going to get better as Brock Purdy and this offense kind of clicks, getting Brandon Ayuk reacclimated. It hasn't quite got there yet, but it will.
Yeah, it's funny because we scored 30 points this week, but it's kind of like a fugazi 30 points because the defense gave us 10 points. You had the pick 6 from Fred Warner. That was 7. And then we had the one-play turnover drive from Sam O where he forced the fumble, and we got no first downs and kicked a field goal. So, yeah, we scored 30 points for the second time this year. In both the wins, we scored over 30 points. But it wasn't so much on the offense. However, it was our greatest yardage output this year, 431 yards. Back-to-back weeks over 420 yards. That's some rare territory. That is, you're in a position where, man, you are racking up. You're moving up and down the field. That's great. We're just not cashing in a lot. 50% in the red zone. You had that interception that took points off the board to Brandon Ayuk in the corner of the end zone. That was a bad Brock Purdy read. It seems like almost week in, week out, we're giving away a possession where we're already in scoring possession. So, Ant, do you change anything in the red zone? Do we get a little bit more conservative than we have been? We're putting the ball in jeopardy. We're not chipping for Colton McKivitz at empty sets on 5-step drops. Like, are there some of those things that you look at that can kind of remedy this? Not poor. We're right at average in the red zone, but we're not an average football team. We're not an average offensive football team. So what is one of the things that you think we can do to adjust the red zone percentage to get more touchdowns instead of field goals?
I think they need to be a little bit more creative. I think right now they're kind of coming out there and running some of their base plays when they get into the red zone, and it worked all the time last year because they had Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey is a big reason why they're not as good in the red zone. If you look at when he came in 2022, there's a direct correlation to red zone success with Christian McCaffrey. Last year, they're at 68%, but that's because McCaffrey is multiple in the things that he can do, and Kyle could get him matched up one-on-one with the linebacker, and he could win in the passing game, or you could get him the ball in the run game, and he was really good at finishing around the goal line. Well, now you don't have him, so how do you figure out a way to do it? It helped getting Kittle and Debo back this week. That was really huge. The week before against the Rams, without them, you really lacked when it came to red zone threats. I think they could run a little bit more play action, especially early on first down. Right now, it looks like it's always a run play with Jordan Mason, and I get it. He's 230 plus pounds, can run you over. You think that that's what you need to do, but I think being a little bit more multiple could help this 49ers offense in the red zone, and just being a little bit more creative. Let's do some things. Let's put some pressure on the players out on the edge. Let's get Debo the ball on a screen. Some of those types of things I think could be huge for this 49ers team. And we've seen Kyle go to the screen a little bit with Debo last week. It got called back because Trent Williams was getting into his stance when Debo's running motion. But those are the kinds of things I want to see from the red zone offense.
Yeah, we hit that touchdown to Kittle on a screen as well. Like that's just what man, we could do some Jordan Mason screens. We've never called one, but like, good Lord, we see that dude has elevated what he's done in the passing game so stinking much. I'm trying to look up his numbers. Yeah, he's got 6 catches on 7 targets this year. That's huge. 5 of which have went for a first down. The only one that didn't was the what's it called? Once in a 2-minute drill where he was tackled short, and then that penalty. That's where that was. But yeah, Invader CMC was the key that unlocked the red zone. How many touchdowns in a row did that guy have? 100%. And Rusty, I'm with you here, my friend. Is it just me, or does Mason's vision miss some really big holes in the middle? You go from Christian McCaffrey, and I remember whenever I wrote his draft profile, I said some of the best vision I have ever seen on the football field. I think I even put this. I was like, LT's number 1 all time, probably in my era. And Christian McCaffrey's like right there. Like his vision is unbelievable. Mason's is good vision. It's not bad. And if you see the difference between Isaac Garindo to Mason, that's a gigantic gap. Like Isaac G's not a vision dude yet. Hopefully that changes. Mason's above average, but still, we got so spoiled watching 23 just glide the Iceman out there, every single block, reading it all correctly, doing everything right. Mason's amazing. I mean, the dude's like, what, 2nd in the NFL in rushing? Like, he's been awesome, but you're still missing that just little extra cleanness from CMC. We'll see. We can't get them back enough. One of the things I want to talk about, I had the 5-man packages in mind as well, but also the pressure packages. 49ers could not get pressure with 4-man people consistently going. Then you had the Hargrave injury. It was like, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? Well, turns out you got to blitz. And the 49ers started blitzing, and it paid huge dividends, 30-plus pressures, 6 sacks. You had guys coming out of the work. And I think a lot of it, too, the personnel played better, but you pair the personnel with the coverage on the back end and the pressure up front. It just worked. It just worked. And so hats off to Sorensen, who's caught a lot of flack. He really, really has. By far his best game, I believe. Yeah, it's only been 4, so you pick 4. There were several times where I like, ooh, good job, Sorensen. And if you can have those feelings as they come off, it's like, all right, let's roll. I like the blitzing the backers. Again, never blitz DFF and drop Campbell into coverage, but that's okay. I'm just being a little picky here. And I will say this, Campbell did not have a good game, but the few times that they put Campbell in cover 1, he ran really good man coverage. I know people don't want to hear that, but this game, individually, Campbell actually played really good man coverage, which is not his forte whatsoever, but they didn't target his guys in man or whatever else, but it was like, ooh, all right, that's pretty good, pretty solid. He actually struggled in zone coverage, which he's been better at most of his career. Kind of funny there. But what were your thoughts on the blitz packagings, the frequencies, just how much they were able to manufacture pressure?
Yeah, I liked it. You know, we've been talking about how can we stop those defensive ends from getting chipped. And one of the things that we brought up last week was let's go ahead and let's bring pressure from those linebackers off the edge. We don't really care for those guys a lot of times in certain situations. Well, then they can kind of take a tight end. And we've seen that. Leonard Floyd was able to get some pressures because he was finally singled up a little bit. Bosa was finally singled up a little bit. And that's because you simulated pressure. I thought they did a good job with simulations and sometimes bringing those guys to make New England honest. Okay, I got to make sure I'm sliding to the left to pick up one of these guys. I can't know for sure that DFF or Fred Warner is going to drop out from this A-gap showing blitz. And I thought he did a good job with that. I also thought he disguised things really well. There was a couple of times just looking at it pre-snap, I didn't think that Malik Mustafa was going to blitz off the edge, but he did. And it was like, oh, okay, if I didn't see it on an all-22 film where I could see the whole thing, likely the center didn't see it either. And so I thought there was enough disguises, enough simulated pressures that it kept the offensive line for the Patriots off balance. And I thought it really helped the aggressiveness of the defensive line. They kind of got going. And then we saw some really good technique too. There was some great plays. Malik Collins had a hump move on a pass rush that was absolutely fantastic. I haven't seen one that good in a long time. It was.
I said Reggie White. I was like, it's
Yep.
Reggie. It's not Reggie White, but it reminded me of Reggie White. Just freaking, just
100%, because he got him on the exact moment he's moving his weight in balance. And it was perfect timing. And the strength to do that, remarkable. And so I thought it really did open up the defensive line. It got some good one-on-ones for them, and they were winning on their one-on-ones, which I thought was fantastic in this game. So, yeah, Sorensen put it together. He mixed it up. You did not know what you were going to get. He was willing to bring everyone at any time, and that kept New England off balance, and that's what he's got to continue to do. Now, it was a little bit easier because Jacoby Brissett is a stationary quarterback. He's a statue back there. When you have a mobile quarterback like Kyler Murray, the game's going to change a little bit. Now you're talking about pass rush lane integrity compared to last week just being able to get after it.
That's going to be the question. And, shout out to Moon Man. He says, John, going forward, simulate pressure, disguising is going to be very important for this defense. 100% it is. Now, the good news is you're not coaching against Kevin O'Connell and Sean McVay and Matt Stafford every week. That's the great news. The bad news is, you're correct. It just this week. And it's funny because you can tell narratives can be buried, but they're always going to come back. When Robert Saleh was the defensive coordinator, our biggest problem was mobile quarterbacks. We could stop the zone read, save our life. We just couldn't do it. But that really hasn't been the issue. It's funny. Everybody keeps saying on social media, this is the Achilles heel. This is what they always, not really. They adjusted that. The past 2 years, mobile quarterbacks have not been a threat to the 49ers. Now, I think a big reason why that is number 5'7", lurking in the linebacker. He'll kill a quarterback any chance he can. Drake Greenlaw is not going to be playing this game. So, how much do you adjust the pressure simulations this week going against Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals? We've played Kyler Murray a lot. We've been able to channel Kyler Murray in the pass rush lanes pretty consistently. Kyler Murray beats us in the running game, the design runs. That's a different story. Those are two different things. But how do you move forward, Ant? So let's dip a little bit into the second part of this show. What type of coaching adjustments do you make on the defensive line / coverages? Do you blitz as much? Do you stick with the wide 9? Do you sit Bosa as a spy? Do you Warner didn't practice yesterday, but I'm pretty sure he's going to play. How do you approach this?
Well, I think the first thing you're going to do in this game is you're probably going to bring a lot of 5-man pressures. 5-man pressures mean you can kind of keep Kyler Murray from being able to find an open area to run. Kyler Murray, even though he's very athletic, he gets sacked a lot. He's actually been sacked 10 times, and usually he loses a tremendous amount of yards when he's sacked. He gives ground and tries to get around. So when you're talking about pass rush lane integrity, you need two outside guys, whether that's a linebacker or an edge defender, to make sure you don't go too far upfield. If you go too far upfield, you're going to create an open window for him to be able to escape the pocket. So that's first. Then you need an internal push from that defensive line. Adding a fifth pass rusher, whether it's a linebacker, safety, whoever, will kind of keep that pocket together and be able to collapse it on Kyler Murray. Make Kyler Murray beat you from the pocket, consistently throwing, good completions. And that's how you're going to get it done this week. We've seen him do it against Jalen Hurts. We've seen him do it against others where you make that guy win for the pocket. That's not normally how successful they are as running quarterbacks. And so I think that's the game. The name of the game this week is let's bring 5-man pressures. Let's keep him in the pocket. And when you have the opportunity to get to him, but your first goal is to make sure that he doesn't escape and have a big play with his legs.
Yeah, we saw this against Jalen Hurts, right? You kind of put the blueprint out there. It's like, man, Kyler Murray's a good quarterback. He's got a crazy arm. He makes a lot of sensational plays. There's no doubt about that. But if you can force him to only beat you with his arm, they're going to have some problems. So Nick Bosa is about as good as that as anybody. I know people get frustrated with the sack numbers or whatever, but let me just put this into perspective. Nick Bosa has 19 pressures on the year in 4 games. The entire Cardinals defense has 19 pressures combined on the year. Nick Bosa is doing the same thing, and they run a 5-man front. So don't you come at me with no Bosa hate. Not this year. Not this year. Anyway, I don't know why I got so mad. It just sometimes you get angry, coach, and you got to let them hear it. It's just what it is. It's what it is. Now, I do want to say real quick, I put up on the 49ersrush.com on our Patreon our Thursday night football teaser of the week. You're going to have to go check that out. Got a prop bet in there. Usually we don't do a Thursday night one, but I found one that I liked a lot. And if you're going to bet with us, help us out, support the show. Here's how you do it. You know football. You watch all the games. You know what's going to happen before it actually does. So why don't you put your knowledge to the test over at MyBookie, where you can bet on everything. Go to mybookie.ag, use promo code 49ERS, 49ers, or scan this QR code next to me, and they're going to match your initial deposit. Put in 50, you get 50. Put in 100, you get 100, all the way up to $1,000. Plus, you can bet everywhere. California, Texas, doesn't matter. I've been in California for years. I've used it for 6 straight years. Easy to get money in, easy to get money out, trusted source, and you can bet on anything you want. You want to bet on politics, any sport, you name it. They've got the casino if that's your thing. You name it, MyBookie is there for you. Now, make sure you use promo code 49ERS to get that double deposit. And MyBookie, bet anything, anytime, anywhere, only with MyBookie. All right, look at Rusty. He says, an angry JC could break the internet. Well, like I said, I've been a little bit more testy than normal. And so, like, I put out some positive Juwan Jennings, but unfortunately some humorous Brandon Ayuk takes. I've been called casual more in the past 24 hours than I have most of my life, which I never really thought that was really an insult. I'm a very casual person. I have a casual Friday t-shirt. I'm not wearing it right now. It's not Friday. I don't think casual is bad insult. Take that for what you will. So I want to go to one of the things that I want to see moving forward. I want more snaps for Juwan Jennings. Now, if we look at the wide receiver snap count from last week, Ayuk had 50, Debo had 48. A lot of those were running back snaps. Jennings had 36. I don't like that. I do like that Jennings getting more than he used to. Not enough. I want all of those guys to literally have the exact same snap count one way or the other. Like, I really wish that they could find a way. Jennings got to be on the field more often. I mean, he just has to with the way he's playing. I'm not concerned about Ayuk long-term. And for some reason, if I say something about Juwan Jennings, that means I dislike Brandon Ayuk. Not the case. Not the case. Juwan Jennings is the hot man right now. That Hansel, he's so hot right now. He's got to keep going. So how would you, let's say you've got 150 snaps to kind of distribute to these 3 wide receivers. How would you like that broken up, Ant?
Yeah, I'd like it to be a little bit, tighter and closer together. I think it's normal for Brandon Ayuk to get more snaps because of him playing the traditional X receiver role. And that's always out on the field, no matter how many receivers you have out there or how many tight ends. You put 3 tight ends, you're still going to have Brandon Ayuk out there for the most part. So he's usually going to get more. And then Debo, I think part of the reason that he gets a lot more is it's a lot of multiple positions. Him playing running back sometimes affords him extra opportunities. But I like that Jennings' numbers going up. And Kyle would be smart to continue going with the hot hand, and I think he will. Right now, Juwan Jennings is playing the best football he's played in his entire career, and I don't even think it's close. And this is exactly what you're hoping to get from your 3rd wide receiver, who's now playing like a number 2 wide receiver, but his numbers are showing that he's a number 1 wide receiver. Of course, we know that he's extremely talented, can make all the plays you need him to make. But yeah, getting these guys more rotation, I think, is nice. It also comes down to matchups. So I think there's probably going to be times now we see Juwan Jennings kind of narrow the gap on snaps. And then I think sometimes with the scheme and the way that you're going to play and approach different teams, it'll probably be a little bit of a gap the way it was this time with 10 to 12. But I like him getting more snaps because good things happen when Juwan Jennings is on the field.
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny because, yeah, Ayuk he's the X. That's what he is. But man, they put him more in slot this year than I've ever seen. They're motioning him into that slot role. I think they're trying to get him kind of supercharged into the thing, but it's just not working. And flip that, Juwan Jennings, I went back and looked at the dissected snap count. He has more snaps out wide than in the slot in 3 of the 4 games this year. Now, one of those was because Debo was hurt, right? Obviously. But I went back and looked at 2023. There were only 4 times all of last season that he had more out wide snaps than slot snaps, Juwan Jennings. He's already done that in 3 out of 4 games. And so I applaud the 49ers coaching staff. They're finding ways to get him more involved. I just want more. I'm greedy. I'm like Brock Purdy. Whenever I'm out there throwing deep balls, whenever it's the first play of the first drive, I think it was 3 straight drives. Brock Purdy freaking launched a freaking rocket launcher 30+ yards downfield. I love it. I want more greed. Gordon Gekko, baby. Greed is good. So Ant, give me something that you want to see. The coaching changes or adjustments moving forward.
Yeah, I think that one thing I would like to see, and I think someone actually talked about it a little bit in the chat, is getting Deebo Samuel in the backfield in the red zone. I think if you're having a problem with out Christian McCaffrey, there are some unique looks where you can get multiple receivers on the field and get some thin, maybe boxes for the 49ers to be able to not just run, but then get some unique matchups for Deebo matched up on a linebacker. I'd like to see some of that. You don't want to run the ball a whole lot with Deebo down in the red zone, but getting some matchups that you like, whether that's using Deebo to get a good matchup for Kittle or using Deebo just to get a good matchup against linebackers, is something I really want him to see. Get more multiple with your red zone looks. You like to run a lot of big looks, a lot of 2 tight ends on the field, which I like, but let's spread them out a little bit. We've got good wide receivers. We've got capable blockers at wide receiver. So it's really an advantage when other teams are spread out and in their nickel package for you in the run game too. So using Deebo in that avenue, I think, could help. And I think we saw it a little bit, even just not in the red zone, but in normal play. When Kyle had Deebo in there, you got different weird personnel packages from defenses that you had matchups you like, especially in the run game. And Deebo took advantage of it a little bit. So I'd love to see that a little bit more.
Well, I mean, like, you got to think, let's just act like you're a defensive coordinator. How many times do you play a team where they put a wide receiver as the running back? And like, it doesn't matter if you stick to your rules and we are who we are. We're going to stay who we are. But this is something you got to go over because you're personnelling that from the sideline. And a lot of times when Deebo's out there is no running back. And so, like, what is the personnel? Because the first number in personnel is the running backs. The second number is tight ends. That's a 0-2 personnel. Like, they don't have that card on the sidelines, Ant. The old coaches are sitting there just like, what the hell is this? Because whenever they're huddling up and they're getting the call down from the booth, and like one of my first jobs was the personnel coach, sitting up with the binoculars, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12. Like, like that was my job in the booth. I don't know. Deebo special 2 tight end. I don't know what you call it. So it's just one of the different things that coaches have to put on their plate, scheme for in the X's and O room with the coaches. You got to implement it. You got to talk through it in the position rooms. Then you got to walk through it in practice. Are you going to adjust to it? And if you're not going to adjust to it, all right, that should give the 49ers, just a little bit more, I don't know, advantage perhaps, just in how they dictate how defense is going to stop them. Shout out to the man Captain. He says, I know there's no new Call of Duty out this week, but maybe Kyler is grinding out the new Halloween skins. We got a gamer in our midst. I don't know. I remember when my son asked for his birthday a gift card for Fortnite. This is a long time ago. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, there's a new Fortnite. He's like, no. I was like, I don't understand. So, like, you get more stuff, right? He's like, no, they're for skins. And I was like, okay, what's the skin? He's like, oh, it makes your character look different. And I was like, oh, those characters are stronger or faster, right? And he's like, no. I was like, so what do they do? Oh, they just look cool. I was like, you're paying all this money to look cool on a video game? And he's like, yeah, that's what all the kids do now. And I'm just like, man, I would have picked on all these kids. I would have bullied all of them. I'm a grown-up kid. Whenever I play Halo, I am the original Master Chief. I don't want skins. I'm the OG. I don't know. Are you a gamer, Ant? Do you play some video games?
I play Madden. I mean, I've kind of always went towards the sports games. I mean, there was times, of course, where I played other things through the years, and, I used to play, GoldenEye and all that stuff, old school wise, but for the most part, I just stick to Madden at this point. I love it. I like football. So I just kind of stick to it. And I got pretty good there for a while. Not as good now in my older days. I don't play enough to be really good. And so I'm afraid I would get smoked if I wouldn't play it online. So I don't really do that a whole lot.
Father Time, man. It is undefeated. And if you want to catch Ant, man, his Madden simulations with the 49ers are incredible. You do those on Fridays, right?
Friday, yeah.
Friday. So check that out. 49ers Cutback. One, you got to support the show anyway, because this dude's just unbelievable. Anyway, you are the odd job. of 49ers. Is that correct? Did I get that reference?
There you go.
Boom. Got it.
Well done.
All right, let's see here. Let's get through some of these questions and comments. We got 2 of these. Big Papa, the man. Is there a chance that Burford could replace McKivitz and be an improvement? Thank you for adding that second part. I get so many of these questions about Burford and McKivitz, but the second part, would that be an improvement? Ant, you're the O-line guru. What are your thoughts here?
I don't think so. I think Spencer Burford has been put in the right position. I think he should be a guard in the NFL. And I think that Colton McKivitz has showed enough improvement from last year that I'm not really ready to move off of him for another player that's currently on this roster. If you told me there was a good upgrade that we could add and he was better than Colton McKivitz, of course I sign up for that. Everyone does. You always want to improve your roster. I don't think Spencer Burford's the answer at tackle. I think they're giving Spencer Burford reps because they're preparing in case something happens injury-wise and they need a guard to kick out. You know, who are you going to have? Ben Barch? Are you going to have Spencer Burford? You have to have multiple roles for your backup guys. So Burford sliding out there to pinch makes a lot of sense, but I don't think he's an improvement. I think one thing that the 49ers need to kind of consider is maybe giving Banks a little bit of breaks here and there with some of the rotation. I kind of like Spencer Burford getting some reps at left guard moving forward, less right tackle, more left guard. Just from what I've seen on film, it doesn't look like Banks' lateral quickness is holding up all the time, and maybe he just needs a little rotation to help him throughout the game.
Man, those first 2 drives of Banks, that first quarter and a half, it was like, Banks is back, baby. And then it just got worse, and it got worse, and it got worser, and it got worstest, and it was just so bad. And by the end of the game, it was just like, oh, 65, what is you doing? It was just bad. So I'm with you. And they've employed that in the past. I know Banks is in a contract year. He's played through a lot of injuries. He's done. I mean, he's awesome. He's a company man. But yeah, I'm with you. And I think the Burford at right tackle, that's a break glass in case of emergency. Hopefully they don't have to do that. But you got that kind of set up now. But I agree. And when Burford has played this year, it's been a very small sample size. He's looked really, 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 really good. So just say that. Now, I will tell you this. Starting guards next year, I'm telling you right now, it's going to be Dominique Pooty, Spencer Burford. Those are your starters next year. Banks is going to go get paid somewhere, rightfully so. But anyway, I digress. Dan, he says, I appreciate Kyle showing a little more leeway with the rookies, like seeing Cowan get some punt returns, 31 getting a few spells for Mason, Malik getting reps on defense, Renardo. Yeah, this seems to be new. You went from this week 3 bad performance, and Kyle finally said, F it. If we're going to lose, let's get these guys out there. Why do you think the change was to go with all these youth players everywhere? And do you think that will continue in back-to-back divisional games the next 2 weeks, or do you go back to your savvy vets?
Well, I think it was somewhat necessary. You know that you're probably going to need these rookies at some point in the season. You can't carry this many rookies on your 53-man roster and not think they're going to have to help your football team at some point. So finding situations to get them in the game is important. And I think they knew the New England game that if they got control, they would have opportunities to play these guys some snaps against some players they felt they matched up well against. With Malik, it's more of a situation where they don't really have a choice. He needs to play. And so I think that one makes sense. You know, Dominic Pooty always slid into the role of the starter. But Renardo Green, giving him a full half and opportunities to go out there and compete against some wide receivers I think he matches up well against, I think was nice to see. And I think that you've got to continue this, but now it's going to be a smaller sample size. You're going to see a series here and there as they look to work these guys in just these 2 divisional matchups. You got to make sure you win. Now, if you get a control of Arizona, if you're up, a couple of scores, give you an opportunity to some of these guys to go out there and play and keep them in positions where they're not going to get hurt. They're not going to be unsuccessful, and they can play really well. So I like the youth movement, but I think more so they're doing it because they know it's necessary for the long haul down the season, down the stretch, to have these guys capable and ready to go.
Yeah, I like that. Look at this from JP. Brock Purdy first in passing. JP second in rushing. Jawad Jennings third in receiving. Whew. That is that's impressive. It's impressive. And yeah, Purdy, not shocked. I mean, he was an MVP finalist, whatever else. Jordan Mason, good Lord. Jawad Jennings, nobody saw this. Nobody expected this. And imagine once Ayuk gets back to his status. Imagine if CMC comes back. Like, oh, man. The sky's the limit for this offense. It just, man, we got to get there. Vince, he says, I felt like we had such good linebacker depth, and they still can't get DFF off the field. It's funny because all throughout the offseason, there were two positions we were stacked at, linebacker and running backs. Everybody's like, man, can we trade a linebacker? Can we trade Elijah Mitchell? Can we trade a running back? Like, we get extra draft capital. Now it's just like, yikes. We're still in players off of other practice squads. We get Jalen Graham, so on and so forth. So, like, I don't know, man. Obviously, we watch the tape. DFF has been really, really bad, but they can't quit him. They just can't. Why can't I quit you? It's just what it is. So, help me understand. Is DFF just going to be a starter forever this season? Is it no matter what? He's banged up. He's not even practicing a lot this week. I think he was limited, but when's somebody else going to get a shot at this position? Because he's been as bad as anybody.
Yeah, I think he held on to his position a little bit because D. Winters got hurt during training camp and then down the stretch. I think that set the whole thing in motion where DFF was going to get the start, which is unfortunate. You had Curtis Robinson that was playing really well during the preseason. I think you could have easily went with Curtis Robinson. For whatever reason, they've decided to stick with Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles. I think at some point, D. Winters is going to put enough good tape out there that they're going to want him out there. I think some of it, too, the way that he handles playing in space and coverage is a upgrade over every linebacker not named Fred Warner. We've seen him in camp be able to handle Christian McCaffrey a little bit here and there. Of course, no one handles him all the time, but here and there have some good reps. That type of thing you can translate to the game and him being out there in nickel situations. Now we just got to get him out there on base sets. Right now they're protecting DFF. They're putting Devondre Campbell on the strong side and having him handle the run game, which is also good for Campbell. But at some point you got to realize that let's just go with the athletic linebacker that can make plays, that flashes and can get things done in space. And I think at some point they will. But will it be quick enough before Dre comes back? I mean, once Dre comes back, we know it's going to be him, Campbell, and Fred, and then we're not even going to be talking about D. Winters. So maybe DFF does hold us over until then, but I'm still hoping it's D. Winters.
Yeah, I think so too. And I want to see it because let's just be honest. Dre Greenlaw's in a contract year, and DFF cannot be your long-term plan. Neither can Devondre Campbell. D. Winters is the heir apparent. So you're seeing it with Malik Mustafa. He's getting the reps. You're seeing that long-term. You're seeing it with Renardo Green. Come on, man. Let's get some D. Winters. One, he's got to stay healthy, best abilities, availability. But now even DFF's banged up, so he doesn't even have that, whatever, on top of that. Rainier, my man, he says, John, could you educate us on what stunting on the defensive side, usually just from a defensive line standpoint? Let's make this as simple as possible. You line up outside, think about Nick Bosa outside the tackle. He rushes outside the tackle. He stays outside the tackle. Whenever you stunt, you're going to loop and change your gap integrity. So there's what's called an ET stunt. It's where the end goes first and the defensive tackle, the T, goes after. So Bosa will shoot in the B gap inside of the tackle. The tackle will take 2 steps up and then loop to the outside spot where Bosa was lined up. That's probably the most common. There's TE, there's double T, there's all kinds of different stunts. There's double overs and River Lake calls. It gets really complicated. But the most simple thing is you're just crisscrossing. That's it. Anything you would add to that, Ant? You're an old lineman, so you probably look at it a different way. You got to flip the board upside down for Ant's perspective.
Yeah, no, I think you explained it really well. I mean, basically in generalities, it's a defensive lineman adjusting not normal. Normally he rushes a certain lane and he's going to rush somewhere else. And usually there's a lot of looping and a lot of moving. So when you see that, that's what you're going to see: crisscrossing, looping, and usually a lot of defensive holding, which I love. Get your hand out there and pull an offensive lineman with you and create a hole and then get the guy coming around nice and tight. So yeah, that's usually what you see. And stunts, when used correctly and at the right times, can be huge for a defensive line. When not used correctly, it will kind of stymie the pass rush. So it has to be called at the right times and the right looks. And Sorensen did a great job this last game. Him and Coach Chris Kasarik had it worked out.
Yeah, first week was some of the worst I've ever seen. Like, they literally stunted on like 15 consecutive pass plays, and it was just like, what the hell are y'all doing? But I do think that we're going to see a lot more stunts this week against a mobile quarterback. The idea is, especially with the shorter Kyler Murray's, not the tallest dude out there, it changes the vision up. and it makes them kind of their eyes drop and change a little bit. So I do think that this is going to be a week with a lot of defensive line run integrity, or sorry, not run integrity, but gap integrity, passing lane integrity, crisscrosses, TEs, ETs, all that stuff. And you can do that because the 49ers have been lining up. Oh, right here. Jam, appreciate you. Bosa, power rusher, should line up occasionally over the guard center. They've been doing that with Yatir Gross-Matos, and it worked out so well. So if on one side you have Yatir Gross-Matos and Leonard Floyd, or Yatir Gross-Matos and Sam O's, who it should be, you could run some of those stunts because they're more athletic. And when Gross-Matos is lined up over the guard and then stunts outside, he can play outside contain because he's more athletic. He's a true defensive end. So I think we're getting into some more versatile type looks defensively. And I think that's going to be huge. Is Yatir going to be healthy? Will they do that with another defensive lineman? Those are questions I'm not quite sure of just about yet. So let's see here. A couple more questions before we jump out of here. And I know we touched on this with Debo, but Sonia, always great questions. How many red zone opportunities has Mason gotten? I feel like he chomps down the field, and then we get in the red zone. They don't reward him, whether it's run, play action, screen. He's going to get positive yards all the time. I do feel like this is kind of the situation. Like, he'll get them down there, and then it's like, all right, let's put Kyle Juszczyk back there. Let's put Kittle back there. Let's put Debo back there. What are your thoughts about giving Mason more red zone touches, more red zone targets?
Well, I think finding unique ways. I think right now they've been trying to give him the ball in the running game. Kyle would love just to run it down their throat when they get inside the 10-yard line. You saw the Rams get a nice stop. They stopped Jordan Mason a couple of times. It's not his fault, right? They don't always execute when it comes to blocking. And when you get guys in tight spaces and extra guys out there, you can have some misses. I think that they would love to do that with him there, but I think he's a unique weapon in the fact that now everyone thinks you're going to give him the ball anyways. So now fake it to him and find somebody else. Yeah, it's not the most rewarding thing for a running back, but him being used in that way could help his football team. And then guess what? When teams have to play it straight and have to worry about them coming out the other side on a play action, then when you hand it off, maybe it's a little bit easier for him to get in the end zone. So I think it kind of works together. And I think that's why his opportunities aren't as successful. They're not really running the ball as good as they should when they get to about the 10-yard line. When it gets to those tight situations, they're missing blocks and not executing at the highest of levels. And it's never multiple guys. It's one guy each time. But that slowed up the 49ers rushing attack in the red zone.
Yeah, I think so too. Well said. Well, Ant, this has been an awesome show. I always love these Thursdays, man. I learned. Hopefully the chat learns a little bit, everybody listening. And again, if you guys aren't supporting both shows, please do so. It costs nothing to go subscribe and support, like, all those things. And look, I'll say this. Ant ain't going to say it, but I'm going to say this. If you want to support the show better, all you do is go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, click subscribe, automatic download. You ain't even got to listen to us. It helps us. It supports our numbers and all those things. Keep watching us on YouTube or wherever you get your content. But if you want to support a little extra way, leave us a review, any of those things. Ant is deserving. Again, the odd job of 49ers. I don't know what we're called. Content curators. I've heard that before. I like that. But anyway, it's what it is. And it is always an honor and privilege. Thank you. Any closing remarks or anything that we missed as far as coaching adjustments moving forward?
Well, it's funny as you keep bringing up Odd Job, and all I can think of is Austin Powers. Who throws his shoe? Honestly. Like, that's all I could think of the whole time was the spinoff of Odd Job. So, yeah. So hopefully this is what happens. It was not a joke that Marco Wilson, right, is out there still. It used to be Arizona Cardinal, whatever. But yeah, that's all I can think of now. I have nothing else to add of any substance for the end of the show besides that.
I love it, man. This has been awesome. Thank you guys so much. And as always, stay strong, faithful.